All right, hopefully this stream is live. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll have to give me just a moment to figure out the link for this and then share it with everyone because this was heretofore impossible for me to do. I wanted to do it before the stream went live and I could not find it. So give me just a moment. I apologize for this at the outset. I will have to post these things and make the link available so that people can join and view this lovely stream, this Ask Me Anything stream. Okay, it looks like it is live now. I've got a few viewers. I have moved the damn computer further away from the microphone, so hopefully you won't hear the fan going too badly. Okay, so in theory, I have a link here. Let us hope that this is the case. Hopefully this will work, ladies and gentlemen. Let me jump over and share it on Twitter. And then I will share it on some of these other platforms. Again, apologies for this. I lay this at the feet of YouTube. Link for the stream, which is live now. All right. That just went up on Twitter. And let me throw it over here on Minds for whatever that's worth. Going live now. AMA stream. And that is for Minds. Let me stick it up here on Gab, which is a superior platform, all things considered. There it goes. Let me put it up on this dirtbag platform, Parler, which I'm going to have something to say about in just a moment. Once again, my apologies for this crap. I prefer to just jump right into the discussion, but for whatever reason, YouTube doesn't want that to happen. I wonder if it has anything to do with the fact that we've got elections coming up, that they've just consistently made their live streaming platform more and more difficult to grok. Okay, so I think that is all up. Let me check over here on the stream. It looks like the connection is good. I will jump over here and do a pop-out chat. Ah, my volume is quiet. Okay. How about now? Somebody let me know how that sounds now. Is it any better? Does it need to be amplified further? There's my pop-out chat, so hopefully I can track that. And let me just mute this thing in the background so there's nothing I will have to hear. Okay. Volume is very quiet. Yes, there is a fan running in the background. There's nothing I can do about that other than to move the computer further away from it, which I did. It says it's still too quiet. Okay, how about now? Because this is the maximum that I can tweak it. Please let me know, people. This is the best I can do, I think. Strange if you have it on maximum volume, Philosophicat. Hello, Zed Dez. Philosophicat. People with moderator wrenches. Okay, I hope Philosophicat is joking about it being her ears popping. That's scary. Okay, so yeah, I've got an Ask Me Anything stream. I may miss a number of these questions in the chat, although I just saw this one from Faust who says, so are you still living in Turkey? No, I left Turkey in 2010. Long ago. It's been 10 years now that I've been back in my native land. Okay, so the sound is good, audio is good, looks like we are ready to roll. So I will sip my apple juice. Delicious. I can taste the orchard. And now I will jump into what I wanted to discuss tonight, if I can find what I have here as material. Yes, let's start with this. I have a few announcements. Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. You can follow this channel on Minds, on Gab, on Parler, on Twitter, On BitChute, there's the sister channel, A Safer Space, which has more content. It's kind of a backup channel. Yes, I'll get to the Ask Me Anything things in just a moment. Ladies and gents, I'm just going to go through this front matter. So yeah, follow the channel. I'm shilling my books. Buy my books. There's Vinculum by Oliver Perrin. There's Cinders from the Bloomery of Youth by Oliver Timken Perrin. You can get these on Amazon. Feel free to check them out. Those who have already purchased the books, thank you very, very much for the support. Okay, we got that shilling out of the way. Now I want to support some other people because YouTube has been, I guess, the most charitable way to put it is that they've been screwing everyone relentlessly. And so it's very difficult for up-and-coming channels to get any kind of exposure except within these limited networks. So we have to do some things on our own to help each other out. And in furtherance of that, I want to mention some of the channels that I've been a guest on, or where the person who runs that channel has been a guest on my channel. Please do consider checking these channels out and subscribing to these folks, because otherwise it's unlikely, given what YouTube is doing, that you're going to hear anything about them. Now, some of these are small channels, some of them are large, much larger than mine. And if I forget anyone, please in the chat let me know so that I can mention anybody that I might have missed. There's Styx, who helped me very early on. He was a guest on my channel and he helped to promote my channel some years back. There's Jason over at No White Guilt, and that of course includes Jared, who has his own channel, The Great Order. Those guys helped me out very early on by having me on as a guest, and Jason and Jared have both focused really strongly on what they call going free and getting individuals to recognize that they're not wearing sets of shackles. They've been very consistent with it. I think their approach is very sensible. I recommend both their channels. There's Millennial Woes. Woes had me on for Millennial Very On. I understand there has been some controversy surrounding Woes, which matters not a fuck to me. I continue to support him and his channel and recommend that all you guys check him out. There's also JF Garapi of The Public Space. He's had me on as a guest a number of times. I watch his channel all the time. He's very consistent. He has great content, great people. I really like JF and his channel quite a bit. There's also Academic Agent. He who mentions sugar butter far too commonly and far too often. I've been a guest on his channel a number of times. I watch him regularly. He's got great stuff, and he's surprisingly funny. He's really a funny guy. His channel and his group episodes are the closest to having a kind of convivial salon atmosphere. So I recommend Academic Agent. There's also Guide to Culture, Frodi. I was on his channel some time back for his Decameron Festival. I've been watching his stuff quite a bit. He recently did a clip on a Russian movie called Come and See, which I've just started watching it last night, got through the first half of it, and it's a damn good movie. So yeah, Frodi and Guide to Culture. Culture is spelled Kulchur. I recommend him highly. There's also Tim Murdoch from White Rabbit. I was a guest on his channel, had a great time talking with him. I recommend him highly. There's Red Ice. They were kind enough to have me on, and of course they're being, blackjacked about the head and shoulders, beaten and deplatformed, and abused in every conceivable sense. So please do consider supporting them. There is Cassius, who I believe is out of Ireland, if I'm not mistaken. And if he's not there, that's his point of origin. He does great stuff translating content from Europe. That's helpful if you want to follow what's going on there socially and politically. If he didn't translate it, then many of us would likely never even hear about it. I mean, those of us who are limited to English as our primary means of communication. So check out Cassius. There's also Unwashed. He does live streams. He's done some stuff, side projects like Vile and Scum. I've enjoyed speaking with him. Consider checking him out, supporting his channel. There's Dancing Dove, Carol, who I've had on. She's got some great, funny old clips from back in the day where she does um, something like mocking karaoke, and I enjoy that quite a bit. Check her out. There's Ruination, formerly Porridge Pals in Australia. He's been a guest on the channel. I follow his content. I know he can get a bit he can get a bit snitty when he argues with different people, but I enjoy his stuff. Continue to support him. There is Philosophicat, who is here with us in the house tonight. She's got her own musical project, as well as her channel. She focuses on a lot of things like what's his name? Crazy Italian guy. God, this getting old thing is yeah. Good Lord, man. What's the crazy guy? He got injured in the damn explosion and was confined to a wheelchair there for a while. And he translated Pali manuscripts and wore a goddamn monocle in his eye. Good Lord. His name completely escapes me, even though it's right there in my mind's eye. Someone will say it in the chat, and I'm just going to move right along from that. And Evola, yes, Evola. And I'm going to start taking Prevagen. There's also Otto Poll. His channel is Jonathan Poll. He's pissed off at me because I'm live streaming at the time when he normally goes on, but fuck him, because every time YouTube knocks off my channel followers, he crows about it and says that his channel is growing. I've talked with him. He's good for geopolitics. He's got a good education, PhD, good with history, good at looking at all sorts of byways and winding side paths of history that people don't generally pay attention to. There's also Right Ruminations. He's been a guest on my channel, I think, twice now. He's definitely a mentat, an interesting guy. I recommend him. There's Donovan Warland out in what's the name of that damn state? Oregon. And I have fun talking with him at intervals. It's been a while. And there is Maître Marc, his own kingdom there, nestled as a sovereign power within Tasmania. Also, there's a guy I've been speaking with quite a bit on Teos. He doesn't have a YouTube channel. I don't think he does, but you can find and follow him on Twitter. We've been doing this Light and Darkness series. He's a historian out of Germany, I believe, or at least a German-speaking country. And it's been great speaking with him. So I recommend on Teos. If you can't follow him on YouTube, follow him on Twitter. And I'm wrapping this up, ladies and gentlemen. We'll get to the Ask Me Anything in just a moment. I do see Faustus saying on Teos, the German publishing house. No, I don't believe so. And then there are some channels I have no relationship with. I've spoken to some of these people very briefly on Twitter. By my mentioning them, I don't mean to suggest that they endorse me. I'm just saying that I endorse their content. I enjoy it very much. There's Morgoth's Review. He of Hello Again There Folks fame. Great content. He's a proper hedge scholar. He thinks very openly and for himself. He'll find different angles of approach on subjects, topics, and ideas that most people don't think about. I think his stuff is great. There's Laura Towler, whose content I enjoy. There's Daughter of Albion, who's just excellent for producing emotional, striking content that really gets to you. She should wear the propagandist's cap for the dissident right in terms of making it accessible. She does great stuff. There's Tina and Eunice. Eunice just doesn't seem to smile much, but I follow his content on Twitter, and sometimes he posts some funny shit. So Tina and Eunice. There's also Charlemagne. Never had him as a guest, but he's got a channel, and I enjoy listening to him and Turnip speak with AA. There's Conscious Caracal out of South Africa, whom I wish to support simply because they need support down that way. There's Marhobane, who's also from South Africa, whose channel I would recommend. I think he comes at it more from the English angle than the Boer angle, which is the case with Conscious Caracal, but I support his channel. There's also I Hypocrite, whom everyone must know. But you know, he kind of gathers together all the horrific footage of the insanity that's going on. And then there is Dangerfield, somewhere down in Cambodia or something. And he's good for a laugh, also has interesting guests, good content. So these are people that I wanted to throw some support out for. I'm sorry it took so long, but there is no way to for any of us to grow unless we take a little bit of time to point these other content creators out and show some support. If there's anybody I've forgotten, hopefully you guys will mention it in the chat and I'll come back around. Again, if I've forgotten you, my most sincere apologies, and no offense intended, certainly. Now, I wanted to mention one other thing about this business with Parler. There's a channel follower I have, someone who follows the content I produce, Tazia, who is over on Parler, and apparently she was booted off of Parler unceremoniously, just kicked straight out for posting imagery that she called controversial. Who knows what it is? It's probably something that would cause people to get all in a snit, but I don't really give a damn because Parler is supposed to be a channel for free speech. And this is the first I've heard of someone being booted straight out of Parler, Parlay, whatever the hell it's called. I think we should all be aware of this, and perhaps it's time to allow our eye that we keep on Parler to become a bit jaundiced and yellow, because it looks like they are not sticking to what they claimed to be the fundamental, plank they stand on, which is free speech. Not surprising. But there it is. Now, I had something I wanted to mention, which is this story of Dick Whittington and his cat. This is a man apparently from the late Middle Ages who ended up being a mayor of London, who's famous for having brought a cat to a South Sea country and it took care of all the rats, and he gets used as some sort of example of the value of capitalism and making things available to folks who otherwise wouldn't have it, and thereby making a buck. Someone, oh man, apple juice is good. Someone had asked me to tell the story of Dick Whittington and his cat, ostensibly the creator of the cat flap. I'm not going to go into that, but the Dick Whittington story is a very interesting one. There are these odd things I'm hearing about Britain, the city of London, things that I had not been aware of. And for some reason, whatever reason it is, I felt like the story of Dick Whittington and his cat, again, supposedly the original creator of the cat flap, I wanted to mention that. I felt like it should be known. So I have a couple things that I can go into that I'm thinking about doing clips on here in the future. I'm going to mention one briefly. I'll come back to another one if it looks like we're not getting good Ask Me Anything questions. Hopefully I'll just be able to mention this one because I need some help in finding information, particularly information that people in Africa might be able to help me find that I'm not aware of. I've been looking at albinos and how albinos are treated in Africa. I've been looking at the phrase people of color, which suggests, of course, that anyone who is not a person of color is somehow lacking. They're melanin deprived. They're people without color. Albinos in, for example, Tanzania, where they're hacked up and devoured or have their body parts used in witchcraft, they're referred to as ghosts. And of course, for white people in the West, Casper is one of the dismissive, unpleasant slurs that's used to refer to white people. There's also white bread, there's cracker. So there's the idea of this pallor, but there's that odd parallel with the ghost. And then there's the idea of albinos across Africa and how they're mistreated. Now, I'm not going to go into all of it. I'm not going to give up the secrets, the juicy little bits that I think will be most interesting for this upcoming discussion that I'm working on. However, I've revealed this much because I do need help from people who are based in Africa. Specifically, what I'm looking for is any kind of anecdotal information, news reports, or anthropological information that refers to how white corpses or white body parts, and by this I mean Caucasian, Caucasians as they're called, are used in rituals and are thought to be more efficacious. Certainly we have the idea that the albinos themselves, albino Africans, that their especially efficacious or useful in witchcraft. But I have found tantalizing little bits, but not much, about how practitioners of things like Palo Mayombe might want to use white people's bones or skulls or brains in creating their ngongas and their various ritual cauldrons. So I'm really looking for that. If anyone can help me out with any kind of anecdotal information on how Caucasian corpses or body parts are thought to be more efficacious in African rituals, I would very much appreciate it. So yeah, you can get me at Semiogogue at Proton Mail. If you want to send me that information, I'll see it on Twitter too if you want to DM me, but that would be very helpful. It's a project I'm working on. So hopefully we can now turn to Ask Me Anything stuff. So I'm going to scroll back through here to things I might have missed, and this will allow me to catch up with folks, given that I've not really been looking at the chat thus far. So what do we have? Philosophica, hello, as I said. We have a moderator in the house. We have Zed Dez, a moderator. Excellent. Thank you all for joining us, folks. Hopefully the audio is not too much of a problem. I'm hearing that there's an echo and fans in the background. John Ski, another moderator in the house. Hello, sir. Ann Smith says, what age did your hair turn white? I found my first white hairs when I was 20, and it was rather a shock to me. Okay, who else? Faust is in the house. Hello, sir. Charlemagne in the house. Welcome. Good to see you, sir. Sorry, just catching up, peoples. Doing my shout outs here for folks. Who else? SD, old school channel guy. Waldo Ledowski, another old school guy. Minoan. Oh yeah, this is something that I should have mentioned. Put the little at Semiogogue thing there if you want me to notice the question. Flower Tower asks about Inanna Ishtar, and I guess that includes Astarte as well. That isn't something that I've properly dug into. I know a little bit about it, but I couldn't really say anything without doing a little prep. So perhaps try me next time. Maybe I'll look into it and be able to get back with you on that. Arthur Mathers, just to let everyone know, has only 1.75 beers left, which is a concern, I'm sure. Doomer Tears says, Semiogogue cut the feel-good crap, talk about the coming wars, focus on Turkey and China if you must. Turkey, I cannot go into at this moment because we're waiting for another shoe to drop. There's some very interesting things going on with Turkey. But we'll have to see. It's just a little short of being something that I can currently talk about because we've got to see what happens with these latest things with Egypt, with their attempts to cut off the Eastern Mediterranean natural gas by pulling a game in Libya. Now we've got Cyprus, Greece, and France, and increasingly Israel and the United Arab Emirates. This is all sort of coming together. I think we're going to see, other than possibly Israel doing some things with Lebanon, that they're going to be holding off doing much of anything until they're sure about what direction things are going to go with the upcoming U.S. election. Jared George in the house. Good to see you, sir. Thanks for stopping in. I hope you and Jason are well. Let's see here. Who else is? Valdo Levdowski says Parler is a scam. Yeah, it's kind of looking like it. John Ski says Base Poland's Twitter account was suspended. That does not surprise me. More and more things are going to have to be silenced because we can't have the mess and nonsense of reality breaking through and perhaps shaking things up. Okay, so let's see here. Albinos eaten and turned into trinkets. Well, after a fashion, if you consider amulets and spells and quote-unquote witchcraft as being trinkets, yes. Let's see here. Disciple of Bugs Bunny is in the house to say for the 1 millionth time, diversity means chasing down the last white person. Okay. I'm getting here, folks. I'm catching up. Minoan asks why I'm interested in the albino stuff. I can't give it all away because I want it to be, I always want to deliver with the clip. I want there to be this unexpected thing that makes people go, wow, that's interesting. Faust says, I think it's specifically about the albino thing, but I have found tantalizing little bits that it's not just about albino. The Caucasians might be used. I've got one anecdotal thing, a major crime case from the 80s with a practitioner of Palomayombe. And there's also the idea, at least in some areas of Africa, that the blacks turn out as albinos because they've got a spirit of a white person in them. So it's not quite as clear cut as all of that. Charlemagne asks about Eyes Wide Shut. I have not watched that in a long time, so I can't say anything about it. I'm trying to get a discussion going with Frody over at Guide to Culture on the movie Dogville. So that's been very much on my mind lately, but I'd have to watch Eyes Wide Shut again to get with it. Millennial Woes is in the house. Mr. Woes, I'm glad to see you here. I noticed that, of course, this is not related to you in any way if you're still here. This is pretty far back in the chat, that there's some guy by the name of Melvin Waters who disappeared. And I have no idea what's going on with that. I was rather shocked to see it. I hope that someone else with an appropriate set of initials appears yet again. Okay, I'm trying to catch up here, people. Trunk McGate, Semiogogue question, have you heard anything from Michael Black? No, I have not. I would have mentioned him, except his channel is now gone. No one has heard of him in forever. I think every 6 months or so, someone comes through and asks if I've heard anything from him in the chat, and I have not. Mike says, Semiogogue, are you into practices of the psychedelic variety? Once, long ago, when I was young, when I was a lad, I was interested in all the psychonaut stuff. But there's a way that Tim put it to me years and years and years ago when I was but a lad, and I stand by it. I think it's a very true observation, which is that psychedelics will seize you by the scruff of your damn neck and carry you up and place you on the top of the Green Mountain of Kaf or Mount Meru, and you'll be Lord of the Four Quarters, seeing in all directions. And then as soon as the effect of the psychedelic fades, you have no idea how you got there. Some people can unfortunately be trapped up there for at least the amount of time that the effects of the drug or drugs last and don't know how to get back again. Basically, you can't get there under your own power. And so while it has some value, and I wouldn't go back in time and change what I did as a lad, I would not recommend it for people, particularly ones who have not spent a considerable amount of time preparing for it. It's certainly not a what do you call it, a recreational pastime. And I've seen some people kind of crap out and fall to pieces as a result of it. There are such things as acid casualties, and it does happen. Okay, Semiogogue, this is from You're Not in the Circle. Not exclusive at all, are you? Do you have any unique advice for publishing a book and in general the writing process? Trying to write a fantash book with Trojan horse themes about our current situation. Well, I will be writing something of this sort set further in the future. All I can offer for writing, there are two clips that I did some time back that I think are in my Esoteric series. One is called Write Yourself Down, and it refers to the journal process. But there's another one on composition called Inspiration or something like that, and it has very specific techniques for composition that hopefully will be useful to you. Philip Sharp says Turkey used to be Celtic. Yes, and they still have Celts. They've got what I call a sort of rinsed Celt. They have reddish brown hair, and they have gray eyes and faint freckles. Of course, the central part of Anatolia is called Galatia for the Gauls who settled there. Yeah, there is a considerable amount of Celtic blood in Turkey, and people aren't aware of it. It's still there to this day. Philosophicat says, why is traditional astrology, sans outer planets, so vastly superior to modern New Age astrology? I guess because the bones of it got set down far enough back that you didn't have all the like newspaper astrology and the other crap involved with it. But I mean, even the older astrology is kind of questionable to me. It's most interesting to me in the sense that it serves as a kind of Rorschach blot. It's much like tarot cards. Like you avail yourself, you gain knowledge of the symbolism of astrology or tarot, not so much, I think, because of essential truth any more than any archetypal character or figure or theme has a certain truth to it. It's less about the truth value of it as the insight value. And once you've acquainted yourself with the symbol sets, it becomes yet another way that you can be spoken to by yourself, whether you want to think of a collective unconscious, an individual superconscious. It's much like coffee grounds or tea leaves or a Rorschach blot. It's up to you what you see in the thing reflected there for you. So I think it's more about the individual person having tuned themselves up, front-loaded their awareness with the symbolism, and then when you turn to it, you find that it can show you more. Like some people don't get into sense, so they can't follow the notes and the subnotes, the high notes, the clear ones, the bass notes, so to speak, in a scent. Likewise, some people are not sommeliers, so they don't have a nose fit for sticking into a wine glass and sniffing, or gurgling wine in the back of their throat and talking about notes and chocolate and loam and black soil and peat. The more you acquaint yourself with a thing, the more you have the ability to see what's going on with it, and therefore you can reflect back at yourself insights that you might not otherwise allow yourself to see. It goes with things like technical terminology. People who work with wood who will talk about cup and crown and bow, or the grain of the wood, or how some types of wood work well with saws and other ones don't, how some types of wood are resistant to rot, like redwood, and others are soft and fit for carving, others are like ironwood or hornbeam. You have a technical language. If you talk to mechanics, they'll talk to you about drilling and tapping threads, and they'll have all sorts of strange names for things that you're not aware of. Likewise, when I worked in bookbinding, I didn't know what a rounding and a backing hammer was, or a nipping press versus a lying press versus a standing press versus a sewing frame. Whatever you focus on to learn more about, whether it's rune lore with Anglo-Saxon rune poems, whether it's astrology, whether it's the tarot, whether it's geomancy, the more attention you give to it, the more your self with a capital S has an opportunity to reflect back to you things that are more and more granular and detailed. I hope that was a sufficient answer. I didn't want to leave Philosophicat hanging there. John Walter says, what's up with Greece? That is tied together with the whole thing of Turkey, and so I'm going to hold off on saying anything further about that at this time. Josef Stolen says, what's your favorite Orwell book? I don't know, I like Animal Farm in 1984 about the same. And I haven't read much else other than, or anything other than those, so I'm not really in a position to speak, not being steeped in the deep lore of Orwell. Okay, I'm scrolling on down here. F for Melvin. Woe says, yeah, I heard he got banned from Twitter. I don't know what's going on, but a certain set of initials seems to have a lot of trouble wherever they manifest. John Ski says, Semiogogue, is India about to go all boogaloo on China? India is not as strong as it might seem. I doubt they're going to go boogaloo on anyone, but I think they know what side the bread is buttered on. If China gets knocked down a peg and people need freely available, labor that costs less. Although India apparently has a lot further to go than China, or to get up to China's level if they want to be able to manage all this foreign capital being invested and getting the workforce going as a new alternative cheap source of labor, because China's been working on it for much longer. What I do think will happen with India is that increasingly up in those border areas where they're butting heads, and you're seeing the like the Galwan Valley and some of these areas in the north in the rough country bordering the Chinese-controlled territories of what's actually Tibet and East Turkestan. I think you're probably going to see the Indians involved insofar as everyone else who wishes to destabilize China, that if they want an overland route, they're going to have to go through those areas. So I think India is probably going to be helping other powers to create mischief for China in their western regions. But I think it's going to be after the election and after they go, as Tim had talked about, rolling into Afghanistan, that we'll see some of that begin to happen. El Vaquero, hello, sir. Just went to what is potentially the largest Pueblo ruin in the U.S. There are places you can't avoid stepping on pot shards. Quastiyuqua. Yeah, I've been to Chaco Canyon. Camped out there years ago when I went cross country on motorcycles. And that's a trippy place. Of course, that's in, northern New Mexico? Up past, what's the place with the nuclear labs? Los Alamos. Yeah, there's a lot out west that I haven't seen. A friend of mine wants to do a motorcycle trip out that way, and I want to do it to kind of go back to my youth when I went cross country a couple times on bikes. I will do that fairly soon, hopefully. Don Browning in the house. Field Marshal Don Browning. Flower Tower. Drugs produced by our own body are not to be dismissed, though. No, indeed. They can be the base of what are often called religious experiences or mystical experiences. Lance Corporal Veteran in the house. Somebody's been following my channel for a while. Welcome, sir. My father took a psychedelic and had an out-of-body experience where he saw himself from high in the air and could see the tops of buildings he could not see. Yes, there is quite a bit of anecdotal lore about that sort of thing. John Ski says, Semiogogue, are you getting the mandatory COVID vaccination pushed by Bill Gates, who says it microchips you at the same time? Let me think about that. No. Arthur Mathers, Crum. To hell with you, Crum. Says, Semiogogue, what's your favorite Robert E. Howard story? And that would be Red Nails. Masumink says, what's your birth date, Oliver? I'm not sure I'd share that, and even if I did, you'd have to have the time and location of my birth to make it useful from an astrological perspective. Semiogogue says, what did Eric Vogelin mean by immanentize the eschaton? I have still not finished that damn, Gnostic on political religions or whatever for Vogelin. It's sitting next to my bed. I will do it, I swear. So not having read everything that he mentions to contextualize that, my guess is that to make it imminent is, and eschaton is, eschatology, the idea of salvation, the savior. It means to, I would guess, again, I haven't read it yet. I'm just, someone else can come in the chat who's familiar with Vogelin, but it seems to me that it would mean making manifest the idea of the just about to happen sense of a savior coming into being. Frank Underwood, Semiogogue, will conservatives and or libertarians ever stop merely reacting to their rights being taken away and proactively fight the left? If so, what will it take for them to do so? I think it's happening, but it's happening slowly. It's basically the more you get kicked in the face and spat upon and thrown down and passed over for people who obviously within any meritocratic framework are unqualified. Just the continuous abuses, the old line about don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining. There's a certain point at which people are like, no, that's not rain. And as we get closer to it, or we see more of it, I think the reaction will build. Inanna Vega in the house, a wandering figure traveling across the world. I hope you are well wherever it is you are now. Bay 6 says, Semiogogue, who is... wait a minute, I'm skipping people. Wait, it just reset. But I'm not that far ahead. Okay. I missed Doomer Tears. What the hell is the story of Mike Enoch's cartoon insect eyes? He can't be human. I'm not familiar with that. Perhaps someone in the comments can help you with it. You're not in the circle. Semiogogue, any thoughts on Belarus's situation? No, but Mopo, a channel follower who I think is in Poland, just left me a long comment on that in either the last or the next to last clip that I did. And I am still chewing on that. I've got to research it. But if you look back, it's either in the last clip I just did with Tim, the last Chainsmoker, the one right before it. There's a very long comment from Mobo, which is excellent. I thank him for it. Intended to sort of get me oriented on what's happening there. And so I can't answer the question, but he tried to, and you'll find it in one of the last two clips. Basic, who is behind the decay of America? Who pushed U.S. involvement in Iraq in 2003? Why don't you think the Jewish question is, excuse me, I'm not supposed to say that. The JQ is an important question. There are certainly any number of question marks to go around. And when it comes to this topic, I'd have to ask you just what that question is. I've addressed it from my perspective because I had to dig into it and to some extent to have discussions or interact with everybody out here who seems intensely focused upon all of that. I'd ask you what the hell that question is. There's the Polish question, there was the Ukrainian question, there's the Armenian question. There have been any numbers of questions, but once upon a time back in the United States, there was the Negro question. They always come up with this idea of the question, but I can't really answer you unless you focus upon what specifically that question is. I mean, because otherwise it just seems to be whether or not you place your chips on the table behind the idea that they're responsible for everything. So yeah, happy to discuss it, but you'd have to be a little more focused for me. And bearing in mind also that there's certain depth, I can't go into it without being booted off of YouTube. And yes, I recognize what that in and of itself suggests. Whatever. Inana Vega, afternoon, y'all. I already covered that. Elva Caro. You're not getting up to Coastiuqua on a street legal motorcycle unless it's dual purpose. If you're in New Mexico and want to see it, drop me a line. I will. If I go rolling through New Mexico on bikes again, I will definitely holler at you for sure. There's amazing country out there that people don't know about. I want to get out to that one spot where they've got all the conquistadores signatures and the rest. There's that rock that has all the graffiti on it of different people passing through over hundreds of years. What did I just miss here? This is from Ezra St. White. Semiogogue, what is the origin of the tarot? Did Kabbalah take tarot and Tree of Life from a more ancient source? Well, it gets a little bit weird because you've got people, I think, starting around the period of Alphonse Louis Constant, a communist, Christian communist, who went by the name of Eliphas Levi, who was, I think, one of the first of the ones to use, quote-unquote, the occult to try to chisel away at traditional structures in the West, starting about with him and then going into that whole phase, with S.L. McGregor Mathers and Crowley makes fun of him as Edwin Arthwaite. What's his actual name? Arthur Edward Waite. And Yeats, and Crowley himself as a spy. Right in that period, you know, they had the focus on saying, wow, there are 22 paths connecting the 10 Sephiroth, or 11 if you include Doth, the hidden Sephiroth. There are 22 paths, and that must correspond to the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. So fundamentally, the tarot must be a Hebrew thing. And I'm not entirely sure that's the case. It may simply be a coincidence in terms of there being 21 numbered cards and one unnumbered card, the Fool, in the major arcana, as they put it. So I don't know that, I tend to be skeptical about the idea that we're not dealing with syncretism in terms of the tarot being related to the Kabbalah, because that whole idea appears very late and after Eliphas Levi, as best I can tell. I haven't seen anyone who's mentioned it earlier. And the actual origins of the tarot as playing cards and potentially as a mnemonic, there's some things that come out of India that are cards, basically an unbound book, that are used as mnemonic schemes and meditational schemes. But there's also what are referred to as Mamluk playing cards. And if you do search for tarot and Mamluk playing cards, you will find that there is a background, the possibility that playing cards coming out of the North African regions like Egypt that were controlled by the Mamluks may be the origin of what we call our suits, like pentacles or coins, staves or wands, cups, and yeah, the four suits for the tarot corresponding to the four elements and whatever. It looks like they may well have come from some sort of division associated with how the Mamluks organized their armies, and then a game that was associated with that with cards. But I've already talked about this too long. That's one possible angle of approach. Hopefully that will get you started with some other ways of looking at it. GG says, Semiogogue, any opinion on that Shadowgate documentary? It looks to me basically like you just had a couple whistleblower type people who work for the intelligence services as contractors who said there's bad stuff going on. We all know that there's bad stuff going on. It remains to be seen whether or not it's particularly significant, and if so, to what extent it is. I mean, I was like, oh, a few interesting side things, but nothing that really, got me all excited. Bruce Bogtrotter says, Semiogogue question. What is the question that we should be asking? Why am I here? Who am I? What is manifestation? What is the nature of isness? The usual fundamental Gnostic questions. Cy Sharp says, Semiogogue, what is your favorite cigar? I smoked cigars when I was a lad. I smoked more pipes more, and I like Balkan Sobrani. But now I've switched over to, and it's not available anymore, and it's very heavy. I've switched more over to Virginia, yellow Virginia tobaccos, golden Virginia style tobaccos. I like some of the Stokebees. I think it's called a Virginia blend. And cigars, I like the ones that were wrapped with the green leaf. I can't remember what the hell they were called, but I don't get involved in it anymore. Donning Armor says, Semiogogue, to mask or not to mask? That is my question. Follow all the recommendations of your medical authorities and government authorities in whatever location you're in. Far be it from me to question the absolute knowledge, the omnipotence, and the power of the World Health Organization or the CDC or whoever it is who happens to be telling you what to do. Absolutely do exactly what they say and do not question it. Wow, I'm way behind, man. Joseph Stalin says, Semiogogue, the Democratic city mayors must have realized that the protests are hurting them more than Trump. Is their creation off the leash? I'm not so sure that they realize it. I think they're desperate, which is basically I'm not sure it's going to work, but it's the one thing that could maybe work, and so perhaps that's why they're doing their thing. I think it's going to backfire on them. Faust says, Semiogogue, do you have any strong opinions on the American movement in general, and can your country built on vice, sin, and war be saved? Also, could you stop oppressing me? No. I like the Dutch people, or I did until I got to know something of you. I really, really like the Dutch people, but now I don't like them so much because you are such a thistle. You really are a thistle, man. But I welcome you, and you're an intelligent thistle, and one from whom I've learned a number of things. So you're always welcome here. We don't have to agree. But I would invite you to explain to me what country in the world anywhere wasn't built on what you call vice, sin, and war. And again, I like the Dutch so much. Everyone's like they're really just bitchy people who are kind of closed in on themselves, and they tend to be not that open with folks, and they're judgmental and concerned with making money. I've always viewed what was it I heard about the Dutch? The Dutch are exactly like the English, except that with the Dutch, you actually get what you pay for. I've always liked the Dutch, but but you're ruining it for me, man. Yeah, show me a country that wasn't, as you say, built on vice, sin, and war. And And then let's get into discussions about whether or not the Dutch even have an army or a navy to speak of, and how they do anything except exist beneath the wings of others, or at least it's been that way for quite some time. 17th century Dutch were hardcore motherfuckers, and I still love the fact that they're the tallest of the Europeans, as I recall. I still like the Dutch. Even Faust can't make me not like the Dutch, which I guess is why I'm willing to tolerate Faust too. Tyler Bledsoe says, Semiogogue, have you read The Bare History of a Fallen King by Michael Pastoureau? No, I have not. Jim Bannister, hello sir, says, what do you think of the arrest of former president of Colombia, Alvaro Uribe? I don't know shit about it. That might be something for me to ask Tim about. I haven't followed actually what's going on in Colombia, and I really should, given how critical South America has been to Chinese, Iranian, and Russian games. And of course, some of those people actually have the idea of, self-determination for their own countries and are doing it on their own. And many of them are commies. Yeah, I should be looking into it, and I haven't. So, mea maxima culpa. I will check, though. Cheers to Bark Lounger. Wait, now I'm lost again. John Walters says, Semiogogue, did you know Israel minted a shekel with Trump and King Cyrus on it? No, I did not. All right, I'm trying to get down here to the bottom. Okay, I'm going to skip any questions that do not have an @Semiogogue included with them, and see if I can get down here to the bottom. And by gum, it looks like I have caught up, and there are no new fresh questions for me, which suggests now is the time for me to enjoy my drink. Well, if you guys don't come up with some interesting questions for me here shortly, I'm going to have to mention something about this other side project I'm working on. Hopefully that will not be necessary, because really I want to keep it secret. The apple juice I'm drinking, Arthur Mathers, is, what's it called? Bullet apple juice. SD says Dutch Republic owed their wealth mostly to the VOC. Yes, the Dutch East India Company. If you want an interesting pastime, go look at what the Dutch and English did to each other in the distant, far-flung areas of the world where they were competing with each other over clove islands and nutmeg-producing islands, and capturing each other and tying them down on the decks of ships and pouring water into them until they exploded. The Dutch and English abroad. All right. Is Amazon unstoppable? Yes, for the moment it is. El Vaquero, do you prefer straight Virginias over English Balkan blends? Yes, I do now. I like the Virginia tobaccos. They're light and sweet. Millennial Woes, was I ever a fan of Terence McKenna? No, you can't experiment with psychedelics as a lad without hearing about him. But he was mostly someone that was getting made fun of in my circles, because he's talking about alien intelligences and all the rest. Interestingly enough, though, Tim doesn't think that Terence McKenna was all that crazy, and Tim actually went through a whole deep dive, and he does this, like he did it on Persian culture, and I've been to his house, I've seen it. He has like 2 full bookshelves on Persian culture and history, Sogdians, Sasanian Persians, the extension of Persian culture into other areas, the relation of the Persians to the Greeks, all kinds of historical stuff. He just jumps into things. So he had literally 2 bookshelves full of these books, and in a very short period of time, kind of an uncanny period of time, read all of them. He's done the same. I don't mean 2 shelves, I mean 2 bookshelves full of these books. I've fucking seen them. He did the same thing with mycelium and mycology, I guess it's called, and McKenna and other people, and he got big into this guy Stamets. So yeah, I never got into McKenna. But I was around other people who did. One of them moved back to Oregon and lives somewhere out in the forest with his commune. Let's see here. Donning Armor. Semiogogue, when will you and that older hillbilly gentleman take callers? I really like that man. Well, that's something actually I was supposed to mention, and foolishly did not mention, which is that I have got to get my shit sorted out as regards live streams with multiple guests. The only way I'm able to do it now is with myself, basically. I can set up OBS and then run it through YouTube. There's something going on with my laptop being old, my system software being sort of at its limit. If I put the next version of it in, it's going to choke everything up. I need to get a new laptop. And maybe I can use StreamYards, is it? Whichever one has the duck. Apparently I can use that, but I immediately got turned off when I went to go try it, because it was like, we're going to put it all on the cloud and go ahead and click this button which allows us to go in and do whatever we want with your YouTube account. And I'm like, I mean, it's already bad enough that YouTube can do whatever they want with my YouTube account, but what happens when whatever this, duck stream something gets involved with it? So what I think I need to do is either have a dedicated machine for streaming that's a PC with which I can use Streamlabs, or else I'll have to get a newer laptop, because there's something going on with doing multi-party live streams as regards how the audio goes through. It's fucked up. I looked at it before, figured it out, and then promptly forgot, so it's my own fault. Anyway, the point is, I will soon, and by this I mean by the new year, I will be set up properly to have guests on, and I really want to do a multi-up guest kind of stream because of the dynamic it produces when you have multiple parties. I think Academic Agent does a great job with that. So I hope to do it soon, and when I do, then hopefully I can have the, as you refer to him, hillbilly gentleman on taking calls. Zed Semiogogue, you have lots of great questions. You have a fabulous group of folks. Yes, indeed. The people who follow my channel, if nothing else, are extremely patient and tolerant. Faust, the North Sea is ours. Yeah, well, talk to the rest of the former Hanseatic League countries and ethnicities. You might have to argue with Denmark and Sweden and Latvia and Lithuania and Russia about that, and then we'll see whether or not the North Sea is yours. Now, I believe you should have your claim for it. As I mentioned to you, I think before, Faust, I'd rather dig the Frisians. I think they're good folks. But, yeah. The Dutch... I remember when they flooded their entire country to keep the Catholic forces out, the Habsburgs. And I was like, God damn, the Dutch are badass. They're badass. And there's nothing more sexy than long-legged women on bicycles. And I like an uitsmijter sandwich, or however the hell you pronounce it, as much as the next guy. I love pedaling across areas of Holland. They have so much going for them, but but the North Sea is not yours, dude. Not yours. Flower Tower, Semiogogue, I can't find trustworthy sources on how old the symbol of the black sun is. Can you share some knowledge, perhaps? Thank you. I cannot tell you anything about the esoteric dimensions of the black sun as regards, Wewelsburg or whatever that damn castle is called, and the rest. But I did look into it a bit, and don't quote me, but there's an idea of a black sun in alchemy. And there is also the idea of a black sun that was mentioned in some respect, I believe, by Giordano Bruno, in his Hermetic works. And I cannot point you to the direct sources, but I will give you for free something that I realized myself about it. And I think that the black sun, or the midnight sun in some respect, is the light of the Hurkalia, the light that is shed in the Barzakh realm of what Henri Corbin would call the mundus imaginalis. And under the light of the black sun, you have the ability to see entire worlds flower and come into being. Think of it as the original virtual reality. And that allows you, for example, to set up a simulacrum of a given person, or some sort of double of all the things that you are considering, and then you can sort of step back from it and allow those things to do what they do in this realm of the mundus imaginalis, beneath the light of the black sun. And to whatever extent you have not introduced what the alchemists call the tincture, which just means dye in Latin, adding color to what is colorless and clear, to whatever extent you stop short of introducing distortions, then, and that means to whatever extent you allow what is to be reflected in the mirror of the soul as it is, without the distortions, the funhouse mirror distortions of a soul that has not been polished smooth and flat, then you can, in what we can call at its lowest level, though it's far more than that, in your imagination, you can allow these things, wind them up, so to speak, and let them live and act and do whatever it is that they do within the mundus imaginalis, beneath the light of the black sun, and they will tell you what is likely to happen out there in the world of men. Except that for every distortion there will be a falsehood that will be misrepresented or misunderstood, and you will have a forking of the path, the upsilon of the forking path. I haven't thought about this in a while, so I didn't present it really well, properly through its stages, but there is something about the black sun being a light of another realm over which we have dominion, because it is still only in potential rather than flowering, the gift having been passed on colorless and clear. And so the black sun, for me, in the old Hermetic sense, is a symbol of the place wherein each of us that is a potential universe has a dominion over what may come into being. And all that we observe in that place is a useful guide to understand what would or could happen here, except insofar as we have introduced distortions or warped the surface of the mirror that should be polished, pure and smooth, to reflect what is. It goes with the whole idea of the mirror of the soul, and the idea that a mirror that reflects an image becomes a true and real thing to the extent that it accurately reflects what it does, except that it is nothing but a reflection. The image does not exist within the mirror, except to the extent that it accurately reflects what is there, and only to that extent participates in what is. And the light of the black sun, which the light of the black sun is what, in the Hermetic sense, is what shines upon all of that, I believe. And nobody wanted to hear all of that. I probably shouldn't have gone into it, and everyone is going to think I'm insane. But there's something older than the more recent mid-century Germanic fascination with the black sun, and it goes back into Hermetic and alchemical works. It's a different kind of light, that which reveals by concealing, if you will, or conceals by revealing. And now I've gotten way far behind. Holy shit. Wow, I'm way back here. Okay, people, I'm going to try to go through this quickly. We now have a full hour left, however. So, apologies, I'm behind. I'm beginning to feel my apple juice. MCT says, Semiogogue, what is the origin of your relationship with the grand gentleman from Tennessee? When I was a lad, I was sticking brochures unbidden into Current 93 albums and Nurse with Wound albums and Psychic TV albums, and after that I stuck brochures into books in occult bookstores. And the gentleman in question was helping out someone he knew at one of these occult bookstores in my town, and so was there when that owner of the bookstore, understandably, was pissed off when he went into some book by, I don't know, Crowley or whatever, or some book on alchemy, and found a brochure stuck in it that he didn't put there. And my friend Tim, on the other hand, said, interesting. Children putting brochures in occult books. I was 19 at the time. And so he sent a message to my post office box. And after that, I met him. Okay. Kel, Semiogogue, what is the end game of forced vaccination program in your opinion? Population reduction. I don't know. I don't focus on the vax stuff, and I don't follow closely what's going on with Fauci or Gates or any of their insanity. My view on the way in which public health is being used as the new framework to impose a kind of priesthood on us is covered in a clip of mine called Public Health, which is out there in the last few months. Elva Cara says, do you age your tobaccos? Not intentionally, although I have some pipe tobacco. I just won't throw it away, and occasionally I'll sprinkle some water in it, or a slice of apple peel I'll throw in. I've got some tobacco down there that's probably, Jesus, I'm fucking old, man. I've got tobacco down there that is probably coming up on being 30 years old. So yeah, I don't throw it away. I keep thinking to myself that, and I actually have some old, God damn it, Balkan Sobrani, which you can't get anymore. I keep it because I think when the zombie apocalypse eventually comes and I run out of tobacco, I can at least smoke it with my pipes. I think you can see behind me here. You've got my pipe rack right about here. I've got a number of them, any number of meerschaum and the rest, but I've got all the tobacco stored downstairs. So no, I haven't aged it intentionally, but I can always pull my stuff out and do it here at some point, see how it went. Masamink says, Semiogogue, I hear from friends that food produce in Turkey is delicious, much like Europe. They made GMOs illegal. Well, when I lived there, until the very end of that period, around 2010, it started to go away, and I've heard from them since that it's gotten much worse. They used to have bakkals, who are people selling vegetables and fruits on the street with their cart, and you used to be able, because they were all competing with each other, they wanted to get the best produce that they could. Now, some of them, of course, would see that you weren't a native Turkish speaker, and they'd turn around when they were putting the tomatoes in the bag to fill, most of it up with rotten and put like 3 good ones on top. But if you went out with a Turkish woman who knows that shit and fucking cracks the whip and keeps a close eye on them, they would keep them honest. And basically the competition forced them to try to have better shit than other people do. The same went for the, kuru, God, I can't even fucking remember Turkish now. I can't remember Evola, I can't remember Turkish. Kuru yemiş, dry goods. They have like, they'll sell you dried cherries or what they call the blood raisins and karadut, mulberry. Fuck, I can't even remember Turkish at this point. But anyway, with those producers also, they're in competition. Leblebi, they're in competition to produce the best, so that the people in that neighborhood will go to the one known for having the best. But they've since really pushed, basically, hypermarts is what they call them or whatever, but they're basically like big grocery stores, and that has increasingly been chiseling away at the traditions of really good produce. Now, I think if you're out in the country outside the big cities, you can still get it, and there's very much a thing with females where they want to bring the best snacks and food and whatever it is when they get together for tea, and so they don't get just anything. They want to be able to arrive with their thing from the patisserie that they know is the best cake or the best, kind of cookie or snack or bread. But it's been chiseled away against, and it's not as good as it once was. Man, once upon a time, the pistachios and cherries that you could get were just, man. Once upon a time, the butter at a good kebabçı in Turkey. But yeah, times have changed, unfortunately. Kalina Kish says, how big is Tim's library? Well, most of it's in boxes now in various storage places. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's bigger than mine, and mine's huge. What am I saying? I've got several truckloads of his books down in my basement also, and there's several truckloads elsewhere, and then there's several truckloads of mine. I'm going to have to get out in the woods and set a library building up, because happily, those sorts of things you don't have to plug in. Faust says, Semiogogue, you can use StreamYards for multiple guests to do live streams. Yeah, apparently. I'm just going to have to figure out that. Okay, Millennial Woes is saying StreamYard too. I'm probably going to have to do it. I will. I just need to get the fuck over it. Man Ray of Hope, what are your thoughts on Timothy Leary? I don't know. He was probably a spy and a scumbag. As I've observed elsewhere, the question is never who is a spy, which is just stupid because almost everyone is. The question is always already who isn't a spy, because that's what you should really care about, because the vast majority of them will be. So Timothy Leary, I don't know. I had some of his books, and many have disappeared. There was an anarchist who went by the pseudonym Jim Black when I was in high school, and he heard that when I was 14, I did my English class book report on Nestor Makhno, and this girl in my class told him about it, and he was an old school 60s, anarchist, so he had her invite me over to the house, and then eventually he killed himself. And he specifically, no, he didn't say it, but after he died, his girlfriend and the daughter that I was in high school with, they had somehow taken note of the fact that this aging anarchist with his library had really liked me, and so they said, he's killed himself, he's dead, come look at his books, take what you want, because he would have wanted you to have them. And in addition to the psychedelic experience by Leary and Alpert and the rest, I got a number of books, Be Here Now, and a number of books by Leary. I think many of them have since disappeared. A number of books on the occult too. Bakunin, Kropotkin, all that kind of crap. But I did have, what's his name? Ram Dass. I can't remember his real name, but he was a little confederate of Timothy Leary's, or they did their shit together. He came to my high school. I saw him when I was 15, sitting in the front row with my mohawk, listening to Ram Dass talk about getting a hard-on while swimming with dolphins. And of course, me sitting up front with my painted leather jacket. I'm like, what do you think about Aleister Crowley? So yeah. Elvira says, drop me a line. I can figure out the tech for it and can work with you. I'm guessing you're talking about StreamYards. Thank you, sir. Yeah, somebody just said you can build your own, GSP said you can build your own PC for $500 easy. Yeah, I can do better because I've got a keyboard here, a box, and a monitor, a keyboard, a case, and a power supply, and a monitor and a mouse that my friend left here because he came to visit and couldn't be away from his games. So he brought his graphics board and motherboard with him, carried it home when he left, but left a case and this other shit. So I should probably do that. I just hate PCs. I really should do it though. It's so cheap. It's stupid for me not to, and I'll step around all this, bottleneck crap with Apple. Potentiality says, Semiogogue, have you ever watched The Jolly Heretic? And if so, what are your thoughts? I have watched a few of his things. I enjoy some of them. I think he's an interesting guy. I don't have anything bad to say about him. I don't watch his stuff often, but I do watch it at times. I like him much better than the dude with the man bun. And of course, I can't say a bunch of shit about a man bun, but I don't do a messy man bun on top. I think, and I like Dutton better than Man Bun Dude. They're both very intelligent guys with interesting stuff to talk about, but Man Bun Dude is not quite as intelligent as he thinks he is. But both of them are interesting, and I don't have anything negative to say about either of them. Arthur Mather says, Semiogogue, do you think Alexei Navalny was poisoned? I'm not familiar with all of that. John Ski, Semiogogue, the more time goes by since 2008 to present, the more racist type of comment seems. Why? I can offer no observation except to say I thoroughly disavow your racism, which I find it repulsive, sir. I can't imagine. Come back around. It's all one global village. March with me beneath the rainbow flag. Cy Sharp says Melbourne needs a Semiogogue club. I don't know. I want to go visit Australia, though. I was never interested before, but now I want to go see where ice monkeys settled. I want to go and feel the differences in the various places settled by ice monkeys. So where I was not interested in Australia really before, I am now. And I definitely want to go, hike around in Tasmania, and I want to see these various places like Macquarie Harbor and shit. I want to check it out. Never seen it before. And so I'd be willing to tolerate that insanely long flight. The worst I ever had was when I went to Shanghai and then I went to Bangkok, and I'm like, how do human beings sit inside an airplane for this long? Frank Underwood, Semiogogue, having to be abused into a reaction leaves the right at a strategic disadvantage. Right, it makes them reactive, and which is why I hate the word reactionary, because it's an afterthought. It's an epiphenomenon, reactionary. I only respond. Why are the left so proactive and the right so reactive? Basically because the right practice what they preach, like leave me the fuck alone. And sadly, that's not appropriate for our current circumstances, really. And it's slow, but I feel like they are coming around. Ultimately, hopefully, they will come around. Elvacaro says, Semiogogue, I'm descended from a lot of Vikings, including Danish ones that invaded England. Do I owe the Brits reparations? No. Man, that's so incestuous, man, with the Scandinavians coming down and settling what's now Normandy and drinking their Calvados and coffee, basically like put all the Vikings where the Seine opens out to the sea so they don't, paddle up in their shallow draft boats and tear the shit out of Paris. And then, what's his name? William is the youngest son or something like that. And so he has to go make his fortune elsewhere, and he takes over, Harold gets an arrow in the eye. That's also so much incestuous shit. The Jutes, the Angles, the Saxons, the Danes, what are called the Dutch today, Pictish vestiges, the Celtic fringe, which might have actually been the Celtic core. I don't know. There's just a slight variation in how much they all like cod. I don't know that there's that big a difference between them. Und so, wer am I now? Zedes says, Semiogogue, when did white become white? And when did black become black? I don't understand that question, and therefore it is difficult for me to reply to you. What are we at? We've got 45 minutes left now, peoples. Joseph Stalin says, Semiogogue, I can't believe you wrote a cyberpunk book and not something like from Umberto Eco. How come? I'll tell you honestly, it's the same reason like when I did a thing with Guide to Culture with Frody, and he was like, what the hell are you doing coming in here? I mean, he didn't say this. He was polite. He's very polite to his guests, but he said something basically. I mean, if you translate it, it was like, what are you doing showing up here saying that you want to talk about 28 Days Later when there are all these great art house films that we could talk about? And I've had friends who are way into, the intelligent cinema for artists, for those who can sense that there's narrative and sub-narrative and all these different aspects are, set forth, and you have to apply a kind of hermeneutics to it, and, what do they really mean? I've been around people like that, and sometimes I enjoy those movies, but I like movies with sword fights. I like simple, I read Conan books and shit. Like, I can go down the road of all the noodling intellectual subtext and allegory, and I enjoy it. I've read multiple translations of the Commedia by Dante because I want to understand the symbolism. I'll read the Romance of the Rose. I'll read Jonathan Swift, right? But when I watch a movie, I want to see fucking crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of the villains. And the same thing happens with, I want to turn off my forebrain, as Tim puts it, and just lose myself in a simple story. The most intellectual I'll get with that kind of content is something like Colleen McCullough's Masters of Rome series, I want to turn off, I want, the hooves of the cavalry to trample their opponents underneath them. I want the fucking barbarian dude to throw the woman over his shoulder at the end and march away. Sometimes I just don't want to intellectually noodle. And so when I wrote what you're calling the cyberpunk book, I think there are subtexts to it that are a little bit more intellectual, but I just like fucking, there should be action and gunfights and sword fights and adventure, right? Like I get bored as shit by overly intellectual artistic products. I guess the shortest way to say it is there's a part of me that is resolutely refused to mature in terms of what sort of entertainment I like. All right. Glow in the Dark says, Semiogogue, which form of art media do you think people really need to keep an eye on in the coming years? I think the virtual realm is going to open up. Back in the early 90s, after having learned about the art of memory, I went into this whole thing about how what used to be called, people don't realize it, but you got HTML, but you had like VRML or whatever it was called, virtual reality, you know, markup language. There were attempts to do virtual reality way early. Only now at last, as you can see with the gaming engines and the rest, are we arriving at a time where you could basically explore all of the aspects of the art of memory through, you know, Oculus shit and gaming engines for, you know, real-time rendering of landscapes. I think it's going to be the digital realm as sort of, let's say, crossbred with the art of memory. The problem is that there are so many people who don't want Western culture to come back that this most obvious of things. Can you imagine if you could wander around in the Inferno? Oh shit! Wait, that's a moth. Bitch. With all my antique wool things, when I see, I've seen 3 moths now. God damn it! I've got an infestation, and they're gonna fuck up my antique textiles. Motherfuckers! I'm gonna have to get on them. So because there are people who apparently have an interest in not seeing Western culture come back, there are probably folks who are avoiding this most obvious thing, which is, you know, using 3D rendering and all the rest as a way to explore these psychic landscapes, our cultural inheritance from literature and religion, all the rest, that is the art of memory. That's where I think the greatest opportunity is, and people are not exploring it. All right, am I at the end now? Have I gotten to the end of all the questions? Well, we'll see if more appear. Mothra is innocent. Fucking moths. Fucking moths. I'm serious, man. You wait until you have a 19th century, as I do, folded up folded up in there now. I've got a 19th century original Avar Dagestani felt carpet from the High Caucasus. And it's old as shit. And it's valuable. I've got old carpets. I've got, like, you know, dummy back here on the wall is that's a wool Cherkaska. Like, this is original wool clothing. It's antique. And these cocksuckers get into them and fuck them up. Like under here, can you see it? Right down under there, under that little wooden thing, is a set of all kinds of antique textiles that I have folded up. That, yeah, fucking moths, man. I had a taiko-drum stored on top of, yeah, they don't like cedar either. I had a taiko-drum stored on top of a carpet, and when we lifted the carpet up, you could see that the moths had eaten everything under it and fucked it all up. The only thing I hate more than moths are mosquitoes. Motherfuckers. All right. John Skees County has instigated a mandatory mask requirement. That's kind of frightening, because you're far out from where I am, and you'd think it would be better there, and apparently it isn't. I'm gonna have to move to fucking Oklahoma or Utah or something. This is fucking insane. Even the South isn't safe anymore. John Walter says, Semiogogue, can those antiques be dry cleaned? No, a lot of them can't. Some of them can, but others can't. Like this, the thing behind me over here on the wall, the Suzani, they're not color fast. So, and I need to clean that one. But no matter what you do, they'll run and bleed. Other ones you can. It depends on what you're dealing with. Faust asks about the Caucasus. I don't know this Oyetsye, or whatever, however you pronounce it. I've heard some of the music from the Caucasus. The Chechen dhikr ceremonies, you know, where they build themselves up to a kind of intense mystical experience by My friend Gerard put it beautifully. He was saying basically that the meter is one, right? It's not like 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4, and it's not like 1 2 1 2 1 2. It's just fucking 1 1 1 1 1. I've heard some of their chanting with the drumming going very steadily like that in the background. I've heard a good bit of the Circassian music from further west, Adige, Abkhaz, these folks. And they have interesting 6-count rhythms, and I think their dance is amazing. But to be honest with you, whenever I hear a fucking accordion, I want to stick knitting needles in my eyes. And they love accordions. I just fucking hate accordions. I mean, if I could do one thing to change how Western culture developed, I would go back in time and make sure that whoever invented the accordion was murdered in his crib. I fucking hate accordions. What do we have here? I don't know where I am on this thing. I'm way behind. What the hell am I missing? God, I'm way behind. Whoa, embrace the grug. What am I missing? John Malter says, am I an elf? No, I'm not an elf. Jesus Christ, did I miss everything? Statue of Semiogogue near the Yara River. Do I see Jesse Lee Peterson as a gatekeeper? No. Arthur Mathers, do you consider Genesis P. Orge to be someone that should be respected as an artist? No. I enjoyed Throbbing Gristle, Psychic TV less, but as soon as Genesis P. Orge and whatever his damn girlfriend's name got started with their fucking, transitional gender crap, I was like, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Death by Cognitive Dissonance says, would you consider reaching out to Jim Goad for a conversation? No, probably not. There it is. Who needs mushrooms when you have Semiogogue? I'm just not even good. I'm not that psychedelic. I mean, even as pale as I am with the sunlight coming off of me, you're not going to get glows and trails. Okay, so yeah, I did miss a bunch of shit. I even missed Philosophicat. I'm sorry, Miss Lady. Did you ever figure out the puzzle Tim set you about why the globalists do what they do? No, I did not. Although I think some of the stuff I'm digging into in terms of the roots of utopianism is going to reveal quite a bit. I hope so, anyway. Alright, so I'm going back through here. Tefra says, do I know my Myers-Briggs type? No, I don't fit any of them specifically, I don't think. I've done tests and I get different answers. And I understand that a bunch of the online tests are not actually the proper ones, so it's impossible to tell if you're just fucking around. It's like an online IQ test compared to a real proper IQ test administered by, a test person. I at least had 2 of those done when I was very small. Okay. So yeah, I went back through because I saw I missed a question to Millennial Woes, and I realized I did miss a bunch of these remarks. ST says, Semiogogue, are you familiar with the hesychastic practices of Gregory Palamas? That'd be a no. Semiogogue, this from Winter. You men should check out Arthur Arcturus's channel. It would be interesting if Semiogogue and Arthur did a show together if they would both do it. I'll check it out. Yeah, I hope that fucking moth is dead. There better be more dead moths. Pieces of shit. I'm coming back down here. Edo culture. I don't know about Japan's Edo culture. Past the Jim. Whoa, God, I just got the Lezginka and I'm lost. Huh. Foul. Semiogogue, can I sing a Lezginka? No, I can't sing any of them. And if you pretend that you can sing one of the proper Caucasian languages, I'm going to suspect you're lying, because those are some weird-ass languages. Some of the variants of Circassian have like 1 or 2 vowels and like 70 consonants. And when I was doing research for some of my book and translation stuff in the Caucasus, I met a number of Circassians and got to hear them speak, and some fucking weird ass sounds come out of their mouths. Now the Lezginka is for Lezgins, and I can't remember, are they related to the Georgian languages or some sort of northern Black Sea Laz stuff? I can't remember. They're probably not as difficult as the Circassian and the Northwest Caucasian languages, but Person says, Semiogogue, will you be a part of Guide to Culture's First Principles series if this question hasn't already been answered? I hadn't heard of that, so I'm guessing probably I won't be. Mark McInnes, Semiogogue, thoughts on the Varg pill. In brief, retreat to woods, avoid consumption, taxation, working as a socially beneficial job, milk public assistance, starve the beast. I don't know. Varg seems to be fucking crazy as a boodle beetle. I don't know much about him because I don't follow a lot of his stuff. I've watched a few of his clips, and I had a brief interaction with him sometime back on Twitter. I like the part about retreating to the woods. Definitely. Cy Sharp says, Semiogogue, have you found a fair maiden? Not as yet. We shall see. I mean, everything's on shutdown because of fucking global whatever, and I'm probably going to have to tour the world to do my bride quest, so we shall see. Donning Armor says, Semiogogue, are you a gamer? If so, what's your favorite game? I play first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons at times, but I'm old now, so I haven't done it much. We shall see. We shall see. Dave Hughes Farm, hello sir. Real live farmers. Says, sitting in my decrepit hovel deep in the green knobs of Missouri. I'm glad to hear it, man. I thought Missouri was a lot better place until this recent shit had gone down with what is it? The crap in St. Louis and the rest. Missouri, apparently those people are fucking insane too. Fucking woes and accordions and hot air. He's getting there with punning. That dude, man, he's got some weird pun gland. Woes has a fucked up pun gland. Palooka 82 Semiogogue Black Sabbath albums from best to worst. They're all good, although I like the first one with the weird green chick on the front least of all. I think that's the first one. They're all good up to Sabotage. Everything up to Sabotage is like core fucking golden shit. Then afterwards, the business with Never Say Die and Technical Ecstasy, even though they have Ozzy, they're just shit. Just go the fuck away. Those albums are awful. Black Sabbath is Ozzy from the first album up through Sabotage, and everything else sucks. Except for Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules. And it's not really the same band, but it's still good, and really Mob Rules is best. So you get kind of like a quick return to some kind of energy with Dio for a little while. But all the rest of it is garbage. All the rest of it is absolute shit. All the other singers, it's basically from the first album, Black Sabbath, up through Sabotage, and then sort of like a moment where they redeem themselves briefly with Dio. The rest of it's all garbage. Frank Underwood. Whoa. Brr. Jesus Christ. Frank Underwood. Semiogogue is intolerant. Hair of the dog that bit me. Is intolerance and religious fervor what the right needs to become proactive? It seems to be some of the left's greatest strengths. Well, rational intolerance is something I did a clip about. I tend to agree with you on that. Religious fervor, it depends. I got a little side project where I'm looking at the way in which leftism has become a religion, progressivism, whatever you want to call it, utopian shit. And I'm thinking maybe what somebody needs to do is dig in and present something that is capitalist, not pretend capitalist, but capitalist as explicitly as a religion. And that's actually what I wasn't going to mention, which is another subject I'm digging into. You expect a clip on that in the future. But for at present, what you can take a look at is what I did, rational intolerance. Semiogogue, is this a function of our latent Brahmin tendencies? Restore the caste system. This from Kel. I'm not sure what the context is, because this is from a ways back. I'm slow catching up, so I'm sorry to say I'm not sure what you're talking about. If I did, I would respond. Raisin says, Semiogogue, recommend any tobacconists in Atlanta or other places to visit while in town? Not really. There's really only one place that has anything worth a damn, and the rest of them have all been shut down. I mean, you can go out to what's called Puffin Stuff, I think. But otherwise, I don't follow it. You know, I just buy my bulk tobacco and run it in a machine, and a lot of that I can do through the mail. Fowl says, Semiogogue, I can sing some of the Russian ones, but a more serious question then, how did you get so into Caucasian cultures? What's the origin of the interest? The interest is that when I was in Istanbul, living there, the first time, my very, very close old friend there, his father is a very famous painter. He's descended on one side from Georgians, and he collects antiques. And so, you know, I'm just chilling with my friend in my early 20s at his dad's place, which has a beautiful view of the Bosphorus, you know, beautiful oil paintings. His dad is a very accomplished painter, but there are all these antique saddles from the Caucasus, and sabers and silver work and daggers and the rest, you know, in the glass case with the wood carvings and you know, old clay pipe bottoms, and he just had all kinds of beautiful shit in his house. And so during that period of my life, I saw kamas, or what you call kinjals, the dagger of the region, the saddles of the region, the niello silver work of the region, and I was just like, this is just exquisite. And then when I moved back to the US, I started collecting antique weapons, and I fell in with another guy named Oliver, who is a sort of he's pretty much the foremost expert on Caucasian antiques, arms and armor in the US. I became friends with him. He kind of showed me the ropes, and I started collecting. And from there, I wanted to get into the culture. I found out about what they call tamgas, or the Turks call them damgas. The Russians call them tamga. The Poles call them tamga. The Germans call them Hausmarken. We call them hallmarks. But they're the old clan and family marks. I mean, you can find them on oars for boats in Galicia. You can find them carved over doorways or worked into metalwork in Holland. You can find them on glassware in Poland or cut into stones in Russia. But for me, I found them on arms and armor from the Caucasus of the period. And I went down a big rabbit hole that got me all into the stuff about marks and signs, non-linguistic communication. You can see my publication in Elsevier's Language Sciences, or the stuff I wrote and published in traditional marking systems. There are a number of clips that I put up, or two or three clips from conferences that I did that are in the playlist on Marx and Marx Studies, and you can kind of get a sense of where I went from there. But it was basically being in Turkey, and so there's a huge Caucasian diaspora that went to Turkey after the Russians drove them out of their homelands in, what was it, 1858 or 59 for the Eastern Caucasus, Dagestan, and Sheikh Shamil. And then in 1864 for the Circassians in the West. They were all driven out, and many of them ended up in Turkey. And so there's a diaspora population. I saw their shit in the antique places, and it called out to me. It's like a core old Western material culture aesthetic. Millennial Woe says Sarcassians. It's Circassians, Cherkes, Lan. Fucking tying it to Star Trek. Cy Sharp says, which door is Tim hiding behind? God help me if you're ever hiding behind a door for me. Oof. Yeah, he's not hiding behind any doors. He's chilling. He's chilling high atop a mountain in eastern Tennessee. What's next? Semiogogue, will you live stream the 3 debates? What debates are those? I missed something. Dave Hughes says we don't count St. Louis. I'm glad to know. Zed says you haven't seen bugs until you've been in the north of Canada. We have seasons of flesh-eating flies most of the year. Yeah, man, I saw some. What is it? What's his name? The crazy German person who is a director who has a strange voice, and
He's always smiling when he's talking about things. What's his name? He did The Happy People in Siberia. He's a German guy.
And you see them having to like basically cook tar out of the fat wood to smear themselves with tar for like a period of months so as not to be literally eaten alive by mosquitoes, man. Yeah, the far north. Oof. Arthur Mathers, have you ever listened to Sleep? Yes, a little bit. Winter says, Semiogogue, what would you say is the greatest engineered distortion of history under which we suffer? I don't know, but one of them would be what we call the Reformation and Enlightenment, for sure. Donning Armor, Semiogogue, what's your favorite Netflix show? Netflix is just shite. Just utter shite. I mean, I don't know, The Punisher was fun for just stupid TV shows, but it's all so awful. Really, it's just fucking awful. Where are we? Everyone else is having discussions in the background. Amanda Anderson in the house. Another moderator. Hello, Miss Lady. Welcome. No, I have not found a shirt to complete the connection on my mannequin. I need a proper Circassian one. And what that is the shirt basically is going to have its collar. It has a collar, but it's flat. It doesn't fold down. So the collar is supposed to come all the way up the neck. And then what they do is they sew little, I don't know what sew is not the right term, but they create a little ball of string at the end. So the string is sewn in, but it forms a little ball, and then they make a loop on the other side, so you put the ball through the loop, and so it's very high, tight collar. I've got one like that for one that's not hanging now. I think it's a little late, and it's Russian. So it's Caucasian, but it's probably Cossack, not original Cherkess or Circassian. I've got to get with some Russians on that. Yeah, it's Werner Herzog. Yes, he's the one who always sounds like he's laughing a little bit as he talks about the happy people. Yeah, sorry. Fucking millennial worse is Paul Verhoeven. What the fuck is going on here? These crazy ass Europeans who are up late at this hour. And now I'm half drunk. I'm probably turning red in the cheeks, revealing that I actually do have some Northwest European genetics. So yes, we are coming up to the last 15 minutes that we have available. I want to recommend that everybody watch Dogville. That movie is such a fucking... Actually, you know what? Faust. You should watch Dogville, because Dogville is nothing but the most telling, vicious, disemboweling indictment of America that anyone has ever produced. There's not shit you can say to it. You just have to sit there and go, he's right. So yeah, Faust would like Dogville. Woes is making fun of Faust. Yeah, Faust is, Faust's nickname should be Making Friends. That should be his nickname. He who makes friends. He makes friends with everyone. The Thistle. Now see, this is why he's such a fucking thistle. I present to him a movie produced not by an American, but by a very accomplished director, Lars von Trier, Dogville, in which he could indulge, he could just soak in his bile for the United States. And I do it, you know, with no malice or forethought. And he responds, now that does sound interesting, but I don't usually watch music or TV. Jesus Christ, man. All right, other questions, people. Elvacaro 555, Semiogogue, I just met my 29th cousin in your chat. We live an hour or less from each other. How crazy is that? Well, there you go. Sabrina seems to produce intelligent children, all of whom are so intelligent that apparently they want to return to Germany as quickly as possible. And what I can say for El Vaquero is that he does travel the border in four-wheel drive vehicles, but he does so sensibly with a AR-10 style 308. So what's not to like, right? Winter says, Semiogogue, do you know about the book Hellstorm, and what is your opinion of it? I do not know of this book. I do not know what to say for you. Mark McInnes says, Breaking the Waves 5, Von Trier was wonderful. That was a fucking powerful movie. I don't know if wonderful is what I would call it, but it was definitely powerful. Facile Goose is in the house. Yeah, you know what? I have not seen Manderley. I haven't watched it yet, but Dogville, man, I saw it as many years ago, and I was just like, holy shit, man. But I watched it again recently, and I sort of cracked the allegory, which I had never just paid attention to before. I got it halfway because I watched it early on, um, but uh, but I watched it again, and the most powerful part of Dogville is at the end when they're in, the boss man gangster's car. Man, he's lucky he was able to make that movie and continue to make movies. Absolutely fucking brilliant. Dogville is a masterpiece. Absolutely a masterpiece. Um, let's see. Satali. Um, I don't know where this comment came from. Semiogogue, have you ever tried making an old-fashioned with screwball or old smoky peanut butter with chocolate butters? Oh, and I prefer an 8mm Serbian M76. I think we went from alcohol to long guns. I'm not entirely sure how that works. Yeah, I haven't made any of those drinks. In terms of Serbian weapons, isn't Zastava or whatever Serbian? I've been sitting here thinking to myself, am I going to go 5.56, or am I just going to say I want the fucking hammer of Thor and I'm going to go with 308, or am I going to be sensible and strike an intermediate kind of position with 7.62 by 39? And then I thought to myself, I think I'm going to go with 7.62 by 39. I'm just going to do it. The reliability overcomes the so-called accuracy issues. Now I just have to figure out which one of those I'm going to go for, and I'm thinking Zastava, just because I've met enough South Slavs, and they're good people, and I think they make good rifles. So we'll see. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking it through. I haven't decided yet. Winter says, Semiogogue, what is the racial subgroup of Bavaria? I don't know, although I know that the Swabians or Swabians can be darker too. But I don't know enough about Germany. There are doubtless people here who are in the chat who know more about it and can address that. I wouldn't even help Sabrina, AC1 or whatever, may be able to address it better than I did. Another thing, also Facile Goose, man, fucking Lars von Trier was supposed to do 3 of those Dogville style movies, and what's her name, long-legged, slightly knock-kneed, enticingly pale Australian Nicole Kidman. She was supposed to be in all of them, and I'm like, why the hell did that not happen? Why did the subsequent movies never happen? Semiogogue, have you ever read Panofsky and Saxel's Saturn and Melancholy? Yes, I have, and you get the pointy hat with a ribbon on top for knowing about that book. Yeah, yes, I did, as some of the research for my article that I did on the Tarochi of Montaigne. Yeah, and I dig Panofsky, and Edgar Wind as well. Joseph Stolen says, will you live stream the Trump-Biden debates? No. I will watch them, though, and I may carp about them afterwards. Faust says, I might not be good at making friends, but I have had you repeat my name a dozen times in this stream. Sure, man. I dislike you in a likable way. You're a likable person in a dislikable way, or a dislikable person in a likable kind of way. And I told you I have a soft spot for the Dutch. That's all right. I've mentioned millennial woes more, and if I hadn't, I will do so. Millennial woes, millennial woes, millennial woes, millennial woes. Follow him. See? Now woes is ahead. Johnsky says 7.62 by 54R. Yes. Yes. I understand that with most of the Nagant, if you shim them up properly, you can actually get some good accuracy out of them. And as it stands, I think they're essentially like a 30-06, which means, I mean, that'll put the thrub on you. Absolutely. Okay. Alvacaro says the AR-10 is chambered in 260 Remington. So what that 260? I'm familiar with 270. I've never heard 260. Do you actually mean 270? Yeah, and I mean even 6.5 Creedmoor apparently is better once you get out past about 600 yards than 308. But 308 has the thrub, man. I mean that's just it's a thrub, it's short action or whatever, but it's like the old school battle rifle round. So we'll have to see. I'll probably go with 7.62 by 39 for something with a big ass, something properly magazine fed. Okay. Leo says Semiogogue. I see you're a fan of Nicole Kidman as well. Yes. Generally, I don't like that Scandinavian sort of nose. I like noses that are more. I like Roman noses, Turkish noses. I think noses should have character. They really should have character, and her nose doesn't have character. But what does is the color of her eyes and her pallor and her height. So yeah, I'm definitely on board for that. Pallid women are good. Satali says, Semiogogue, I prefer Romanian guns, but that's because I speak Romanian. Yes, and I prefer chorba. What do you call it? Chorba. For Turks, chorba just means fucking soup. So they call it ishkembe çorbası. But I had a Romanian dude I was friends with when I was in Spain, and he took me to this Romanian restaurant and insisted that I eat chorba, and I'm like, this is fucking ishkembe çorbası. It's fucking tripe with garlic and the rest. It was good. Now, I was in Romania, and I got a little bit freaked out, but I was in Bucharest when it was 1990. God, when was that? 1997? So there were still like bullet holes left and things, and everybody remembered miners coming in to beat the shit out of people, being bussed in, and Ceausescu being driven out. And I read a little bit about Ioan Culianu. Yeah, Romania was a weird fucking place, man. Weird place. And when I got off the train from Istanbul at Gara del Nord, there was actually a partial eclipse going on. So I'm like wandering around looking at these weird ass, these pale, attractive, but strangely feral women under this half light of a partial eclipse. And then, yeah, I got robbed in the train station by what looked like a Bulgarian working with a group of gypsies. Yeah, I had a strange experience in Romania. I didn't like it, but I remain convinced that there are probably great things there I didn't see. I just went at a bad time, and I was an obvious target for all the hungry, hungry people. I wrote a poem. It's called Bucharest 1997, and the first line is a place. Second line is left so colorless. What is it? So colorless and gray. Next line, they would cut you. Next line, just to see color. I can't remember. Yeah, Romania was a fucked up place. Hopefully it's changed a lot since then. It's been so long. All right, where am I? Millennial woes, it's not a right man. Millennial woes and Faust are still fighting in the background. What a bunch of crazy people. Okay, we're coming up now. I got 7 minutes left. Let me get here through to the end. Kel says 6.5 shoots flatter. Yeah, and it's less susceptible to issues with windage. But you don't have as much weight hitting, downrange. Donning Armor says, can you stream for an extra hour? What's your favorite color? Do you like spaghetti? How tall are you? Sorry, man. Satali says 7.62 by 54R's longest use cartridge. Yeah, it's a rimmed motherfucker. It's a rimmed cartridge, but they still apparently use it for sniper rifles and the rest. SD says, Semiogogue, you must be familiar with the Fraternius Saturni of Gregor Gregorius. That's not immediately coming to mind. That sounds familiar, but that might be something I don't know about. Canada, Washington says, Semiogogue, I want to move from the west coast to the south. Will Southerners accept a Californian in their midst, or will they run me out of town? Depends on where you go. Where I am in a major metropolitan area in the southeast, it's totally overrun. There are very few natives left in my town. I did a project for the Chamber of Commerce here working, with a couple of other big organizations, big corporations that were funding it. And the primary people coming here, this is as of like 5 years ago, the major sources of all the people who are moving here right now are California, Michigan, New York, and Texas. So yeah, they're Yankees, damn Yankees. They're like hemorrhoids. They come down and they won't go back up. They're everywhere here. This entire place is being overrun. So I think you would be welcome. Come this way. However, if you're talking about being somewhere in the rural areas of East Tennessee or up in the mountains or further out, they can still be very nice people, but they're gonna mind their own business and expect the same until they find out whether or not you're getting up into their shit, right? Because they don't know until they know. But yeah, generally, I'm sure you could be fine. Okay, 260 Remington. I'm a dumbass. I just never heard of that. I'm no big guy with long guns. I know a little bit, but not a lot. So, hotter than the 6.5 Creedmoor. Right on. El Caro in the house. Arthur Mathers says, I prefer smaller noses. Well, that depends. If you've seen a fucking proper big nose, man, I mean, I don't want to go tripping all off into this whole business of noses. I can get myself in trouble, but yeah. Noses, I mean, the French have fucking awesome noses. The Italians can have awesome noses. And honestly, you can see all kinds of great noses among the Germans. It's when you get with what I call the West Germans, which are the Scandinavians, that you get these little ski slope noses. I mean, they have their part too, or they have their place too, but a nose is like what makes the face, that makes it different. Millennial Woe says, I've never contemplated Nicole Kidman's snout. It's all right. It's all right. I would not throw Nicole Kidman out of bed for leaving crumbs unless she did it better on the floor. I'm not trying to throw attitude. It's just, I'm a mix. I'm Northwest European mixed with Mediterranean and Greek. So I'm a mutt. I'm all Indo-European, but I've got a very distinct side. My dad had fucking intensely blue eyes and blonde hair, and his eyes are turned up a little bit at the side, and I know it's weird because it's from my dad's side, but when I see women who have the eyes angled like this, I have a whole thing. One half of me says, you can go that way. But my mother is German, but also Greek and Italian, and is brunette with brown eyes and more olive-skinned. So there's a whole side of me that says, you can go that way too. So I'm split right down the middle. I'm all fucked up. So I like Europeans with funky noses and, green eyes. That's my sweet spot. But we shall see. Boomer 21, hello sir. Quite convinced that the mask wearing will lead to mandatory vaccine. Feedback? I don't know. I don't know how well a mandatory vaccine is going to go, and the bottom really might get kicked out of all this stuff with COVID. We'll see. We'll see. John Walter says, Semiogogue, do you have a favorite weapon, handheld or otherwise? Yeah, a handgun. And I'm moving into rifles here properly soon, but I've spent 20 years getting my head around the use of handguns. And my favorite handgun, I'm sorry to say it, is a 1911. I know it's not fashionable. It's considered all old man and whatever, but yeah, the 1911. And from there, beyond that, revolvers. I mean, I've got other handguns of many different types, but the 1911, I've had one or another forever, and carried them forever. So they're the pistol. I know. Elvicera tweeted me the 200-yard group with the AR-10. All right, how many minutes of angle? I'm gonna have to go check. I've only got 2 minutes left, so I won't do it here. I'm going to try to get to the last couple of these questions. I want to thank everybody for being in the house. Yeah, and coming in tonight. It's been a long time since I've done a live stream. I'm going to straighten things out soon. I hope I can get people on. Maybe I can even get Woes on to talk about some shit sometime. Since he can talk without risking his channel on my channel, he can only risk mine by talking. Maybe I'll be able to get him on. Arthur Mather's Semiogogue Morrissey had interesting opinions on noses. I'm going to have to look into that. Semiogogue, Cal, have you looked at Victoria Police Satanic Emblem? That from Don Browning? No, I haven't seen that. I'm getting to the end here. Am I at the end? Do I enjoy cigars? I already covered that stuff with cigars earlier. John Malter said, Semiogogue, I think you have good taste. Sabrina said, what about a poem tonight? Yeah, I'm just going to tell you this shit, honestly. I'm about to go. This is wrapping. But green eyes are so fucking vastly superior to blue that I couldn't even go into it. Alright, let me see if I have a poem here to close this thing in. I've fucking read all of them. This is from my lovely book, Cindas from the Bloomery of Youth. What the hell would be a good poem to close with? I need something that will... Well, I already did the music of Eastern. See, I've done so many of these motherfuckers. What am I going to close with? I've done all of these goddamn poems. Oh, here's the Bucharest poem. Bucharest, 1997. Left so cold, so lifeless and gray. They would cut you just to see color. But I already did that one, so it won't count. What will be my closing poem here? What will be my closing poem? I've already done prophecy. Fuck. Psychocartography I've done. Have I done this one? No, I haven't. Maybe I'll do Gravity 2. Maybe I'll do Gravity 2. I've just come from Rome. That would be a poem for Faust. Yeah, I'm going to close. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to close with Gravity 2. Before I do so, thank you everyone for dropping in. I do appreciate it. Thank you very much for the support. And I'll be back soon, hopefully with good guests and good content. This poem, before I wrap up, ladies and gentlemen, is called Gravity 2. It's for a friend of mine, W.E.F. Where the fuck is the thing so I can hang this up right at the right point automatically? Do I have some sort of... There I go. That's right. Okay, I'm ready to end the stream with a dramatic pause. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Gravity 2 for W.E.F. Some time ago, I heard tell, the stone fell to earth because of the love the one bore the other. Like Paolo and Francesca, blown about in passion's too long night. I forget that same force which draws me to earth must of course seal me within it. Sustained consciousness of my fragility eludes me. Thus the cross-eyed hurricane might lend the illusion of strength to the tiny craft driven before it. Such is the pipe nature plays upon to keep body and soul stumbling together. But if the affliction of life beneath the noonday sun is sometimes unwelcome, the remedy is ever at hand. You pass the evidence daily, slow-moving remains of them that came before. Pale eyes unblinking, they mark you as you scurry past. Those bodies that resemble dead insects bent beneath the weight of suits 40 years out of style. Bloodshot noses full of broken veins, like embers, last reminders that life, impatient, lingers momentarily within. Clacking canes and trembling hands outstretched, lest the pebble of chance should unhorse them entire. How I long for my own day, the day when gravity becomes an enemy to a man on level ground.